Today's young adults are coming of age in a world where global crises are the norm, and their digital connectivity allows them to respond with immediacy. Older generations are often unwilling to hand over the reins, but don't always know how to communicate their wisdom when they find themselves sidelined. Approaching the question from a range of cultural backgrounds and with a keen eye for the value of diversity on all levels, the Unlocking Intergenerational Wisdom panel discussion that you're about to hear asks the question, how can respectful and curious dialogues between the generations help build our cultural capacity for positive action? On the panel are Anggwa Dwi Martha, an Obama leader representing UNICEF, who work in over 190 different countries and territories, saving children's lives, defending children's rights, and helping children fulfill their potential from early childhood through to adolescence. We have Dean Delia, Director for Young People at the Prince's Trust Australia, who help young people thrive in a fast-changing world and also inspire military veterans into entrepreneurship. Her Excellency Dr. Justina Mutale, founder and president of the Justina Mutale Foundation, which aims to eliminate global inequality through education. And the panel is chaired by Diana Ryle AM, founder of Explore for Success, which has been a champion and catalyst for workplace inclusion, equity, and passionate leadership over the past 20 years.
Welcome to this panel on making sure that we use all of the talents regardless of what age they are. As you will have heard in a number of the introductions, our panelists, our fabulous panelists, are mainly involved with younger people. But I've asked each of them to think a little bit more about the cross-generational and how we can ensure that we take advantage of the full skill set. So the way we've worked on this tonight is to ask each of our three esteemed speakers to talk a little bit about what they do in their lives and how they work in cross-generational spaces. And I thought first we would move to Dean Delia, who is currently living in Melbourne, but has got a very interesting life story as well to share with us.
I am a first-generation Australian, born of immigrant parents from Malta. My parents came here like many Australians, first-generation Australians. They came here for a better life for us. I grew up out in Melbourne's western suburbs, which is traditionally a blue-collar area. I'm the first person in my immediate family and my extended family to go to university. And the only reason I share all of that is it was through opportunities that were passed on to me because I came from, I guess, on paper disadvantage, that I was able to go to university and then open up my world, which then expanded even further and allowed me to have opportunities to make impact and to, I guess, make social change on this global scale. So if I think about that journey, my own personal journey, that also has always felt like it's come with responsibility to pay it forward and to create opportunities for the next generation. And what I've found is that as I've been able to sort of grow through my own story and my own journey, I've really focused on where I can have the largest impact, and really lasered into opportunities to work with people and organizations that can have that large scale impact so that there are more opportunities for young people to grab that baton and to move forward.
Thank you, Dean, very much. We'll pass now to Justina to do a little bit of introduction. I know that she has started a fabulous foundation focused very much on young people, but also that she has connected with other generations as well.
I am from Zambia, which is in Africa, although I live and work in London. I've been in London for quite a number of years, but I moved to London when I was already a grown up. So I did bring with me a lot of the African Zambian traditions and cultures. For example, in Africa, especially Southern and Central Africa, we believe in the philosophy of Ubuntu, which says that I am a person because you are a person, and that we all belong to a greater whole. So the suffering of others is our own suffering. That means that we all come together, and in most African countries, from my country, Zambia, and the rest of the African countries that I know of, we strongly believe in extended families. And that means living together across generations. And also in most African countries, we do not send away our grown-ups or elders to care homes. We keep them close to us. We keep them close to us so that they share their wisdom with the young people that are being born in the family. In fact, there's a strong belief that you put together the oldest person in the family together with the newest person in the family. So when a child is born, the person that they will spend most of the time with is the oldest family, oldest person in the family. And when we launched the Justina Mutale Foundation, which was about 5 years ago, our youngest speaker was 7 years old, but our oldest speaker was 107. So there was that difference of 100 years in between. And we looked at how long women have been fighting for gender equality. The suffrage movement started over 200 years ago in the 19th century. So we had our great-great-grandmothers begin this fight. Then we had our great-grandmothers, we had our grandmothers, our mothers, ourselves. And now I have, like, my youngest daughter is a millennium baby. She was born in the year 2000. So with the World Summit on Women and Girls, we were bringing together different ages of women to come and articulate, for example, the older women to talk about the journey, how far we have come. But then the younger ones is to articulate the future that they want.
It's always, how do we make those links that the elders are able to express where they're coming from, and the younger people are able to describe how much things have changed. And for all of us, it's a matter of listening. But I'd like to move now to Anga, and he is our young person on the panel. I am the elder.
Thank you so much, Diana. I think it's actually my honor as well to be in this panel. I actually come from a very small town in Indonesia called Kayuaro, which is in the western part of Sumatra. I come from a family that is very religious in a way, and it is very rare for people in my age to be able to be in the village center and start to speaking our mind about village development or our city's development. So there is that unique thing, that age becoming something that we have to really respect. We have to respect the elderly, but at the same time, there's also create a lot of cultural barrier for intergenerational dialogue. I think to that point, there are three things that I feel becoming such a barrier for young people to be able to speak their mind. One is public perception about young people. Second is really ageism, how people really look into, oh, you're too old to do something, or you're too young to do something, and also participation. Public perception, for example, when we move from policy discourse to general public discussion about millennial or young people, where the results are very surprising. The references in the entertainment industry, from Hollywood to Nollywood, from K-pop to Bollywood, for example, often portrays young people as selfie takers, always holding their phones and always on social media, and they don't know what to do with their future. I think this is quite harmful because young people are extremely diverse generation. Yes, many of us are leaders, workers, investors, and innovators, but they are street children, they are refugees and displaced, they are youth with diverse sexual orientation, among others. So by reinforcing the idea that young people is this ideal portrayed, means policies will exclude people who don't fit the stereotypes. I think that's one of the key points. And I think by having new perceptions about millennials or young people that are very heterogeneous communities, I think we can build this trust and understanding that they are partners in development.
You've given us some really good things to think about there, Anggwa. What I'd like you to do is each of you think of one thing you can do to help elder people, the elder generation, listen more openly to young people.
In Africa, we do value our elder people and we keep them with us within the community. When you keep elder people with you within the community and give them the respect that they deserve, then they do feel valued and they feel appreciated to pass down their wisdom, because then it shows that you do value, by keeping them with you, it indicates that you do value what they have to bring to the table. And I think that is very, very important. I've seen in other parts of the Western world, for example, I think that is in Sweden, there's a project where students are paired up with older people that live by themselves. So the students gets to have free accommodation living with this older person, but the older person gets to have the privilege of having someone young living with them in that house instead of them being taken to a home or living by themselves.
That's great. Dean?
I started my career as a high school teacher. Being a teacher gives this unique opportunity to constantly be around young people. And I think there are very few opportunities, unless you have children or of your own or nieces and nephews, there are very few opportunities for adults to interact with young people. So that really played out, and as you were asking that question, that sort of came to mind for me. And then the other thing that came up for me was a dear friend and mentor of mine, Jan Owen, who was the former CEO of the Foundation for Young Australians. Whenever she's asked this question, her response is, if you're over 40, you should have a mentor that is under 20. And that really reigns true for me. And what I've found is, as I've got a little bit further on in my career and spending less time, unfortunately, with young people, I've intentionally kept people around me and had found mentors that are of the next generation. Because I feel really uncomfortable, if I'm totally honest, when asked to speak on behalf of young people. As Anggwa said, young people are not a homogenous group, just like the older generation, and not just one size fits all. And it's really important that if we're going to come together to solve some of these really challenging global issues and local issues, that we are getting that collective wisdom, which also means that an older generation are looking to the younger generation and vice versa, and intentionally setting up those mentorship and equal standing partnerships.
I think you made a really good point there, Dean, that it's not sufficient to just have the generations within a family, although that's really important. I think there's a way of connecting with people who are younger, but are entirely different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, different ways of thinking. I always find it interesting when, you know, as you get older, I think you do get some more fixed ideas. And when you're speaking to someone who's younger, it's very exciting when they say, yes, but. Anggwa, have you got something to add to that conversation as well?
When it comes to politics, when it's come to economy, oh, let's bring the millennial, let's bring young people. But I think it's not enough for young people just to be there on the quote unquote. It need to be meaningful. And they should not be considered only as voters and audience. And I think this is also the same thing with the elder generation nowadays, because the issues of elderly has becoming something that becomes, like a very important issues in many countries around the world. And lastly, I also feel that an active participation of young people and active intergenerational discussion will never work unless young people or older generation are considered as a true partners, not as token or a symbol of inclusion.
So Justina, would you like now to bring a question to Anga?
What I'd really like to ask about is the journey through life needs to be a partnership across generations. We all need to hold each other's hands in order to be able to resolve the issues that impact on the world. So I'd like to know from Anga, from his country, how this is done.
Thank you so much for the question. And that's a very hard question from you, Justina. It is actually true what you're mentioning. Like what I mentioned at the beginning, I live in the country where we really respect elderly. Like when you meet the elderly, you have to really respect them. But on the other hand, there's also a situation where most of the decision-making process was done in a very decentralized way. Like for example, the village policy is done in the village community. Most of the time it's done in a meeting in the evening in the mosque after the last prayer with old male sitting down in front. So it's even hard for my generation to be there. Only if we have white hair, then we have that jokes. If you have white hair, you can sit down there and you can talk. And that's something that I'm trying to change. So I've been working on this issue since I was 18. I'm 29 now. And this is something becoming like very, very a passion issue for me as well. And luckily becoming a work as well for me. In UNICEF, the place that I'm working right now, we have this thing called 4 strategic ways to engage young people and to really bring them together. We have to ensure space. Like in the society, we have space for them to say what they want and say what they think about something. We give them voice. Most of the time, we forgot that those young people, maybe they're really afraid of public speaking. So we give them the tools so they can bring their voice out. We also bring them audience. We work with the government to make sure that the government is willing to accept their opinion or their voice. And lastly, we give them influence. So I think these 4 things could be some of the key that for audience that watching tonight, you could learn and learn from this and maybe bring this back to your community. So it's space, voice, audience, and influence.
Now, Anga, I believe that you have prepared a question or thought about a question for Dean.
Yes. So my question to Dean, I think, Dean, we are in this, like youth activism, right? And I can really see that there's a trend also there's many young people who are, for them, is afraid to pass on the baton to the next generation. I know that we're working on the space that is a marathon, so we need to really empower the younger generation as well. So I just want, if you could share any tips for me and for the audience that are watching, how young people could pass the baton to even younger generation.
Well, okay, that's a really, thank you for the question. It is a tough one. And again, I think the reason why I guess I'm challenged by that question is I'm here tonight representing young people. I'm almost 40. I don't know if I sit in that category anymore. So there's a phrase or a concept here in Australia that is emerging, particularly with regards to First Nations communities, which is never about us without us. So, and the concept being that we shouldn't be having a conversation about a particular group of people unless they are in the room and can speak for themselves. So I certainly can't speak for young people and what to pass on to the next generation. But what I can say, and what I feel comfortable saying through my own lived experience, is that the reason I'm here tonight in Australia speaking on this panel is actually because of opportunities that were put my way. And I think that what comes with that is a ethical and I guess a moral responsibility to not just take that and to grow it for one person, but to really multiply it. And being a first generation Australian from a working class area, if I have this opportunity to have been able to do the things and have the impact that I've had, then I think it's my responsibility to spread that even further and share that learning as far and wide as I can. And that's certainly been my life's work and my passion and what I try to bring into the things that we do at Fringes Trust Australia.
I think the pay it forward comment, Dean, is really important. When you're younger, such as Anggwa, you're looking for opportunities and looking to make a difference. As you move forward in those ages, and as Dean said, approaching 40, all of a sudden you have to remember that it's not just your opportunities. There are now others long before your children are old enough to really be taking those opportunities, but there is another group of people, maybe 5 or 10 years younger than you are, that your job is to make, as you said, a broad set of opportunities for those younger than you are. Now, I know we're getting to the end of the session, and I did promise that each person could have some last comments, and I think I'm going to reverse it from how we started off in the beginning, and just to take some comments going back to the title of Unlocking Intergenerational Wisdom, and really think about the term unlocking. How do we do it? What makes a difference? So, Anggwa, I'm going to pass to you first.
Really, one is to listen. I think the art of listening is something that are quite missing lately, given there's a lot of turmoils in the politics and in the world, given COVID-19 as well. So I think if you're listening and you're willing to listen to your surroundings, I think you will understand what happened, and by then you will gain a respect, and we can unlock this intergenerational discussion.
Thank you, Anggwa. Justina, would you like to add your final words?
It needs to be a partnership where we can hold each other's hands and listen to one another. And as Dean said, nothing about us without us. So whenever we have a table where we are making decisions, we need to have cross-generational representation. And that is the only way that we can unlock the intergenerational wisdom.
Dean, I'll pass to you for your final words.
Thank you. I feel like I could echo what both Justina and Anggwa have said, particularly around getting people in a room and listening. But what I will add to that is I really like that the question is about wisdom, and wisdom comes from lived experience. And I think that lived experience does not necessarily equate to how long you've been on a planet. So if we can really focus on wisdom and recognizing that we all have our own perspectives, we all have our own lived experiences, and if we're willing to drop our collective ego and recognize that there is wisdom that comes with those different lived experiences despite age, I think that could be part of the key to unlocking that wisdom so that we can all learn and grow together.
Thank you, Dean. I would like to thank all three of you for bringing such beautiful and different perspectives, sharing your wisdom with the people who will be watching this panel discussion. And I would like to challenge everyone who is watching this discussion to reflect on how you can unlock the wisdom, because otherwise we're wasting too much talent. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed the session.